Well, the founder of the Angel Zoe Foundation, Dr. Abina Someni Entry, says a lockdown must be sectorial. A complete lockdown, according to her, will be too costly. She spoke on the Super Morning Show with Kojang Singh on Joy FM.
Different leaders who are leading this battle, including our own president. So you can look at UK, for instance. I think they started off with the belief that there's something called herd immunity. It's a strategy they tried, but I think they've abandoned it. And it's essentially about how people can develop immunity. Two ways to a disease. That's one by they developing their own immunity to the disease. That means you need to catch it, right?
Yeah.
Like if you catch a cold, you need to catch it, and then it runs out.
And then your antibodies will
kick in.
Yeah.
And then the other is vaccination. But that has a lot of implications. It means that those who would get the disease and are not able to develop those immunity levels to fight it would die.
Yeah.
Okay, we've had leaders, some countries, who would give different information to the public, and then the health experts will actually give also different information.
So they were lying to the public, basically.
I do not know if I'll call it lie. I think they were massaging the gravity of the problem.
Right.
And in a war zone as we are in, I don't know if you're giving us half-truths is really going to do the trick.
Which countries are you thinking of?
I mean, if you follow CNN, you saw how President Trump would say one thing, he would call on the health experts, they would come in and they'd say contradictory things. And so in that stead, we have different approaches. We've had some presidents who actually went down to the people to show solidarity. We saw that with China.
Yeah.
Yes, and for me, he was risking a lot because he's not a young man. He falls in the vulnerable group.
Xi Jinping.
Yes, and then he still reached out. I think our president is doing a mixture of both, of managing our panic, giving us the information as the experts are advising. And I like that part about the approach. And so, but I see that as very incremental, which is also okay, because sometimes you need to give people the harsh reality of it, that look, no matter what's going to happen, there's going to be some collateral damage, which would come to. Because at this point, I don't know anyone who wants to be a president at this point. But you are going to have to decide on decisions which exist between a very undesirable tension between economics and then social. And that's where we are now.
Right. I even put it as economics and health, but I guess yours is more encompassing economics and social. So in the end, what should a nation choose if it comes down to a choice between the two, economics or social?
We need to understand the demands of both. And let's not kid ourselves. No matter what decision we make, would have collateral damage. The outcomes may or may not be what we expected or desired, but we pray for positives. What it just means is that I think on a sister platform 2 weeks ago, I stated that I was expecting to see part lockdown or partial lockdown, and I still stand by this. But I am standing by a partial lockdown and saying that the emphasis should be on some key sectorial lockdowns.
Okay.
We need to look at the key touch points where contamination can happen, and may have happened already. Let's not kid ourselves. Some cases will pass through the cracks. We will not find them.
Yeah.
You know, it's as with all the cases in all the other countries. They won't be new to us. And so I expect that as of now, we are going to have to look at the economics of it. We have in this country the corporates, the SMEs, the MSMEs. You know, we have different categories of businesses who have been struggling already in the past 18 months. Some are recovering, and some have not. And if we say a full or a total lockdown at a point like this, we are essentially talking about crippling them. Let's be very sure of this. Beyond COVID-19, there would still have to be a country that has economics, and then existing. Especially as we are a country where we do a lot of commerce than manufacturing, and we are trying to change the narrative. So, if an immediate total lockdown for me spells some form of doom,
right,
I still would want to stand by what I mentioned a few weeks back to say that sectorial, for instance, because I'm still thinking, I've worked in the ministry's environment before, and I've seen a number. You see in the mornings and in the evenings, you see quite a huge number of people who are transported through our public transport system to their various homes.
Meanwhile, Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah has received new technologies. New technologies are being deployed to help with contact tracing of persons who may have come into contact with COVID-19 cases in the country. This follows concerns that the country is not aggressively tracing those who may have the disease in the population.
I think the first time we had about the first 1,500 came in from, I think, the WHO or the World Bank support, and then they went up to another 2,000 and then another 5,000 before our instruction to ramp up testing for the procurement of some 50,000 test kits, which instruction was given. And I think by this weekend, stocks of that 50,000 test kits should be coming into town. And then now you have what has also come from the Jacoma Foundation. So then you're going to be hitting maybe somewhere around 70,000 for this first cohort. It is my understanding that we intend to bring in a lot more test kits, because the answer is not even just in a lockdown. It's about test aggressively.
It seems to me, and I'm happy to be corrected, but it seems to me that government is leaning towards the preference of South Korea, test, rather than a lockdown. Is that fair?
All cards are on the table, as I've repeated over and over again. The countries that have been successful in flattening the curve very quickly, South Korea, I think Japan, and a few of those countries, you can also check the literature from these countries. They have been heavy on test. Indeed, for many of them, they didn't even have to do a lockdown. They were more focused on the test. For countries that have just had to do a lockdown, but have not had an aggressive testing regime, you are not necessarily, well, many of the lockdowns are not over, but you are not necessarily seeing a conclusion that a lockdown on its own without more bears the fruits of what we are looking. It may stop spread, but if you don't find the persons by the time you open up, you will now just have delayed the process. So in considering all the options, the view is to examine what do you do when you lock down generally to manage things, but most importantly, what do you do in a lockdown to ensure that you go after the virus and nip it in the bud? Those are the considerations.
Right. Now, when you talk about the countries that have been able to turn things around, they made decisions early. South Korea started testing very, very early. Mass testing, drive-through testing, and so forth. The countries that have suffered have made decisions late. Now, if you look at what we've done here in Ghana, over the weekend, we stopped 2 days' worth of, travel, if you will, and quarantined them, tested them, and we are seeing huge numbers. But we've had this problem for much longer than 2 days. Are we not grossly underestimating the number of cases that may have come through, even in the few days before the shutdown of our borders?
No, we don't intend to underestimate. That is exactly why we have decided to go back to everybody who came in from the Fed and test.
Is that testing decision not coming a bit late, though?
Oh, of course not. It's not. I mean, if you raise the questions of South Korea, etc., you have to now start off by asking, for example, when did they record their first case? Where were the peaks in the world at the time? What did they do about travel from the peaks in the world at the time? And when did they start their aggressive testing? And then finally, what was the science they were using for their aggressive testing? Were they using RDTs because they had the genetic formulations for South Koreans that they could use RDTs? Were they using PCIs? Were they using PCR? All of that is proper analysis you have to do. And then you juxtapose that with our context. When did we drop flights from about 7,000 per day to about a little around 2,000 per day? That was as far back as the 15th, if I'm correct. When did we shut our borders? Because, by even dropping down the traffic from about 7,000 to about 2,000, yes, it wasn't zero. But our risk, particularly from the countries which were epicenters at that time, was significantly reduced. When we said we would not allow persons from the Chinese jurisdiction to come into Ghana as far back as then, when China was the epicenter, we cut back on a lot of potential risk into the Ghanaian jurisdiction. So we don't intend to underestimate. We are just making sure that the decisions that we make are not emotional or rash decisions. They are well thought through, considered from all the perspectives. I think we're close to a decision point. And so far, decisions have served us well. We thank the people of Ghana, the media, and everybody for their support. These final raft of measures should be comprehended so that we nip it in the bud, and that's what the president intends to do.
Right. Now, about the contact tracing, I'm curious about something. We're currently tracing about 900 and something contacts from what you explained. However, we have about 50-something cases that were from the local monitoring, and then another 70, is it 72 from 78. The 78, thank you. 78 from the mandatory quarantine.
Yeah.
Now, as we understand from the WHO, in 2 weeks, one person can infect about 30,000 people. Yeah. So if for the numbers we have, you only have 900 contacts that you are tracing, haven't we missed perhaps quite a large number?
If indeed you have missed a large number, it should begin to show up at least in the 900. And that's why these percentages matter, because there are relativities involved. Even for the 940 that you have reached, the pattern should begin to show even within this 940. So within the 940, if you have one testing positive, you can extrapolate to this potential 30,000 and begin to have a view of how much risk you have out there. But the contact tracing still continues. Indeed, some more technology is being rolled or has been rolled into the contact tracing. A bit of it may require some legal powers under the emergency powers that have been given the president by Parliament. And should he activate that, it should help us to maybe go a bit further in the contact tracing, where you can actually begin to geolocate people whose phone may even be off, even though they've given you the data and their phones are off and they are somewhere in the hinterland. You should be able to then, by geolocation, reach them and ask them to come forward for the necessary testing. So we don't intend to underestimate. We are doing everything that ought to be done to ensure that a proper blanket is put around the threat and nips it in the bud.
Well, a total of 80 people who are trying to enter the country illegally through the borders in the northeast region have been stopped and repatriated by immigration officials. It follows the decision 5 days ago by President Akufo-Addo to close down the country's borders to human traffic as part of measures to stop the spread of COVID-19. While the regional commander of the Immigration Service, Chief Superintendent William Ando, said majority of the people prevented were coming in and using the numerous unapproved routes, mostly nationals from neighboring Togo and Nigeria, with few Ghanaians without residence permits. The commander was addressing the regional minister, Solomon Boa, who was touring the various border posts to monitor and ensure compliance of the president's directives.
Since the directive came, yes, it has been our function to ensure that people don't use this place. Yes. So far, we have retained more than 50 Togolese nationals who were trying to use this place since the closure of the border. About 50 Togolese nationals have been retained. Vehicles, we have not had any issue about people using vehicles. As it is now, things are going on very well. The problem we have is lack of personnel. But then we are coordinating with our Togolese counterparts so that where we have difficulty, they will then be able to also fill the gap for us. So that if we have to put one person there, then we are sure the Togolese have about 2 other people who are also assisting us. So we are having that collaboration with them to ensure that effectively we close the borders. The directive given to us is that The nation is relying on us as immigration service, and we should not fail them, and we will surely not fail them.
Well, the regional minister on his part said he was impressed and urged the personnel to keep their efforts. Solomon Boa said the country at this point relies so much on the immigration service and advised the staff to exercise the highest level of professionalism and avoid negative dealings.
The command officer here, and I must say we are very impressed, and we want to encourage you that you should keep on keeping on. It's very critical because, as His Excellency the President indicated, we are not in normal times, and any little slip will put all of us in a very difficult situation. We are a microcosm of Ghana, Bunkubu Enclave, or Northeast for that matter. But you know, you agree with me that your work and your efforts is more critical now than ever before. That is something that I know by the person that you are, the interaction that, the engagement that I've had with you so far. You are not one of the people who want to take anything for granted. And we want to encourage you and your men to keep the effort. Because if we are able to really block people from entering the town, and we're also able to block people from getting into Togo, I know that we have that close collaboration, we have that blood relation. But once you are a Togolese, now you are a Togolese. It doesn't matter whether you are a Bimoba, it doesn't matter whether you are a Kunkumba, it doesn't matter whether you are an Efe or whether you are a Mankusi. As long as you are called a Togolese, stay in Togo. As long as you are called a Ghanaian, stay in Ghana. The Togo government has closed its borders to Ghana. Ghana has also closed its borders to Togo. And we want it to go out clearly that any person that is found crossing Togo, either on a motorbike, on a bicycle, on a motor, we call this motor king and what have you, through the unapproved routes that you are manning, please seize it immediately and keep it until further notice. Yes,
While over 200 markets are being disinfected in the Ashanti region today. When we come back, we have details of the exercise underway. You're watching News Desk. We take you now to the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, where the markets, about 286 of them, are being disinfected today. We'll bring you live visuals from Kumasi now. Well, this exercise is because the President directed the Ministry of Local Government Rural Development to coordinate with the various metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies to enhance the conditions of hygiene in markets across the country. Last Monday, we saw the same exercise being carried out in the Greater Accra region. This is phase 2 of the exercise underway in Kumasi. Well, a number of activities have been initiated, including the disinfection of markets, public education, and sensitization of market women on COVID-19. The general public, well, it's obviously, as you see in the pictures, people haven't made any attempts, well, except in some places in the Ashanti region where some people thought they could go and open their shops before this exercise, as was reported by our reporters. But basically, generally, people have stayed away from the market to make way for this exercise. Metropolitan Municipal and District Assemblies, in collaboration with market queens and leaders, have closed various markets, about 286 of them, today, 27th of March, for this disinfection exercise, which we're told is to enhance conditions of hygiene in order to contain and prevent the spread of the virus. The market will be open tomorrow, Saturday, 28th of March, for normal business. The Ashanti Regional Coordinating Council is coordinating this exercise and ensuring compliance with this directive to all MMDAs in the region. We've got quite a number of colleagues on the ground. What you see is also from the markets, Adishia markets in Kumasi. We've got Erastus Asari, Donko, Nanaya Ojima, Kwesi, Deborah on the ground, and Prince Apia as well. We will go to the ground and speak to them on how this exercise is going in Kumasi. But for now, this is Adishia market in Kumasi, and that's the disinfection exercise that's ongoing. So close to 300 markets in Kumasi closed today for this exercise. But the good news is markets will be back tomorrow. We have more updates here on JoyNews for you.
Hello, my name is Dara Kwa. Welcome to Business. From Monday, details of passengers will be documented before they go on to board any bus at the Ghana Private Road Transport Union stations. The move is to facilitate efforts by health authorities trace contacts if anyone is identified to have contracted the coronavirus. This decision was agreed after a meeting with the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly and the leadership of the GPRTU. Prince Apia has more.
Every player in Ghana's economy now has been engaged to contribute in every way possible to reduce the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. The transport unions are the latest government has engaged. The Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has therefore met the GPRTU in Ashanti region on implementations of some of the agreements.
So the advice from my office was how they will all abide by the directive from the Minister for Transport to be reducing the numbers so as to create spacing, and at the same time the data collection, that is all the passengers entering into each car.
Nanani Mako Bresiama is chairman of the GPRTU in Ashanti region.
We shall take the name of the destination he's going, the mobile number, and everything, so that if something happens, we can quickly identify that this person came to this station and this has happened. So that for the highways, we shall register every passenger who joins bus to any place. But for the Wawa, we can't do that. So we want to control the disease and at the same time passengers who join the buses.
So this is to facilitate the contact tracing that health professionals have been battling with in this fight against coronavirus. But the major obstacle to this plan is transport operators that do not belong to any unions, popularly known as Wawa.
Trotro is a vehicle which doesn't stop at one place to load. Somewhere we jump from a doom and stop at roundabout. For this, you can't get some people to do all this, because our worry is that we have some people who don't want to join any union, especially the Wawa people. This is what I would say. So we are pleading with the government to help us cramp down all these people.
Meanwhile, the chief executive of KMA, Osei Entry, has hinted on how to address this challenge.
Drivers, because we are in a country where the law also allows people of their freedom, freedom of association. But here is the case that because of their inability to join the union, the unionized ones are also not able to control them. So in these hard times, what do we do with them? So this is an issue. So I'll be inviting those that we know, because they've given us a lot of numbers, but there are a lot of numbers that we don't know. So that is why immediately we are going to have a meeting with the regional minister for us to take a decision as to how to deal with them.
Meanwhile,
Meanwhile, transport consultant Cecil Gabra says suggestions for a possible lockdown of public transport may not be feasible at this time. He says it would have dire repercussions on the livelihoods of transport operators. Mr. Gabra spoke to me over the phone.
I don't think so. We should be fair to all concerned. We should be fair to the public. I mean, we use our own vehicles, and then touch wood, if somebody wants to go to town, doesn't mean that if trucks, taxis are not working, I mean, public transport is not working, he cannot move.
Okay, but I guess the concern is that how do we manage the situation such that there is not a spread?
Yes, I think for now, for instance, yesterday, I understand we'll have 2 seats, 2 passengers per seat, okay? That's fine. They should put up hand sanitizers. They should put up water to wash, and that's it, okay? So if the vehicle is picking 15 passengers and then you pick about 8, and that is for me, and then that could solve part of the problem. Right, but we should also think about the owners of the vehicles. We should think about the drivers. If we're asking them to shut down completely, public transport must not be on the road. What are they going to eat? How are they going to generate income?
And the debate continues. That is it for business. Sports is up next.